Hello, welcome to Productions MJC. My name is Mark. This video is dedicated to Nanoblast Inc., who saw my last video, the video comparing the mindset of a flat earther with the mindset of an atheist. And they do battle it out, D. Marble and Greater Sapien. And I noticed striking similarities, and so as I mentioned those, I had a commenter just hit me with the basic standard talking points, and basically trying to tell me how I was wrong. So I want to dedicate this one to the without the help of Nanoblast Inc., reminding me of those talking points I might have forgotten some. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go through, there's a lot more than 6 myths, but I'm just picked 6 because we need to keep this reasonable. So let's get into those 6 and I'll help us along here. Now when we get into the first myth here, that atheism is not a religion, we have to go back to the basic definition of religions. And what is a religion? Most people think it has to do with some sort of theology, some sort of God or goddess or supreme being or something like that, but it's not actually that complicated. It is a pursuit or interest to which someone ascribes supreme importance. And we all know that atheists do ascribe a supreme importance in reminding us that they believe there is no God. So one of the myths that it is not a religion is absolutely false. It is a pursuit or interest to which they ascribe supreme importance in educating us that we are all wrong, those of us who believe in gods, believe in supreme beings. Now, there are other things that are a religion. Don't get me wrong. This fits consumerism, this fits veganism, this fits almost any other ism, Buddhism, all of that stuff. It fits those to a T. Because who's ever dealt with a vegan? Somebody who ascribes to veganism. I have relatives that are involved in the food industry, and at a Mexican style restaurant where they have to deal with vegans that come in and just go ballistic because they don't have their own special little menu for them. They are steadfastly devoted to this ideal and ideology, and they don't let you forget that the most important thing in life is satisfying their life choice. Now, this isn't a choice that it's not like somebody is gluten intolerant or lactose intolerant or something like that. They have ascribed to the life choice that they will choose to be vegan, and it's not supported by any science of any kind. There are plenty of dietary problems that are caused by pigeonholing yourself into a ascribed dietary method of some sort, or through no choice of your own, you're deprived of whatever substance and you get rickets, you get scurvy. It used to be, don't get citrus, you're lacking in vitamin C or something else. And vegans choose to live a lifestyle that is contrary to nature and they have to supplement their choice by getting vitamin B12 shots. And it's amazing that they are devoutly upset if you don't kowtow to their life choice, which they relate to being akin to some other thing that can't be helped, but it's nothing of the kind. And this is true of atheism. They believe there is no God, and they are very active in that pursuit, and they make sure that legislation happens so that things can change in their favor. Any ism can become a religion. If, you're devoted to it, you are devoutly, religiously dedicated to making sure that everybody knows that that's the way to live. Or if you yourself just pursue this course of action and you make it your lifestyle, a part of your own being, it doesn't have to be based on a deity of some sort. A religion or religious fervor can happen for sectarian reasons, and there are plenty of examples of that. Consumerism, veganism, of course, I spoke about, but there's all sorts of isms that can be ascribed to that thought process. Let's move on to atheism myth number 2. They reject dogma, and they have no dogma. Now, what does that mean? A dogma is something that is held as established opinion. Well, the evolution, which is held as established opinion, it hasn't really been proven, and there are things that buck up against it, but you never really hear about those. They want to push the other thing. That is a dogma. It is something that is held as established opinion. Now, I mean, what else could it be? A dogma is a principle, or it's a set of principles, and it is held as opinion. Doesn't that describe evolution? Doesn't that describe the way that they explain how the universe came to be, how things are, chaos becoming order? It is a set of principles. How down the line they say that it took eons and eons for this to happen or that to happen, or the process by which it happened is expressed in millions of years, and they ascribe to that set of principles or long-held opinion. And keep in mind, evolution is just a notion, it's just an opinion. There hasn't been any actual proof, what they call empirical evidence. Like the atheists insist that the believer in whatever deity it is, they want empirical evidence. That means noticeable to the senses, detectable with the senses. Well, in my last video I had the bacteria flagella, that it's irreducible complexity. If one part is missing, then it won't work. And they have fossil records of bacteria, and they still look exactly the same today as they allegedly did millions and millions and millions and millions of years ago. There's no change. So, but they say that over time there are minute changes here and there. But that flagella that is the propulsion system for the bacteria to get around, for bacterium to move around in whatever substrate they're in, that hasn't changed because it can't. So let's get into the next one, where it's a point of view or tenet put forth as authoritative without adequate grounds. Well, when you look at that, you're saying, well, they have adequate grounds. Not really to tell us how the world is and how the world was created, but they believe and they act as an authoritative, as the authority on it. And everybody who believes in deity or supreme being is crazy. And they're weak, and they have a weak mind. It's an easy way out just to say somebody else is in control. I mean, there are a set of dogma that they have, but they will tell you, we reject dogma. We don't have one. Atheists, nope, no dogma. And then they'll turn around and explain to you their commonly expressed and held opinion. They will act authoritative about it, and they will put forth the tenets of their opinion and belief. But then they'll put this talking point forward and say, we don't hold to your dogma, we don't hold to any dogma, the atheism has no dogma. And that's a crock. The next propaganda item I want to talk about is this talking point that atheists put forward, that a lack of belief is not a belief, which is really funny. When they say it, they often use an analogy and say, bald isn't a hair color. We don't have any hair, and we're bald. I love that. I love that analogy, because an acceptance that a statement is true is a belief. If somebody tells you something and you have faith in what they say, like this evolution stuff, you have something. You're not bald. But they forget that the bald man has to shave his hair to hide the true color of his hair. So I think it's a great analogy, because a synonym, an opinion, a view, a conviction, a judgment, a thinking, way of thinking, idea, impression, theory, conclusion, notion, that describes what they believe about there not being a God, and that the universe couldn't have been created by God, the world wasn't created by God, everything just happens randomly. So they have something. They're not bald. And to use the bald analogy, like I said, is perfect, because a bald person, a bald man, mostly a bald person, has to cut their hair, shave it, hide it, and not let you see the true color of their hair. And they do have a hair color. It's called flesh tone. But they have a color to their scalp. They do have color. They do have belief, and they have opinion. Holy cow, right? Well, something that one accepts as true or real, a firmly held opinion or conviction, how can you look at atheism and say that it is not a firmly held opinion or conviction? They have faith that what they're saying is true, that evolution is true. You know, they have faith without real actual proof. They haven't really documented fossils with this tiny change over time. And the synonyms also include ideology, principle, ethic, tenet, canon, doctrine, teaching, dogma, creed, credo. They do have teaching. They do have doctrine. They'll pass that out to you. It is an ideology. It's a thought process. It's a thinking way. It's not really totally 100% proven. It's a principle and an ideology. Now, when they say lack of belief is not a belief, they have to trust something. They have to have faith in it. They have to have confidence in someone or something. The difference between the atheist religion and a regular religion is regular religion that we think of, Christianity or something, has faith in someone. But they have faith in something, just the natural chaos of things. And atheism myth number 4 that I've wanting to address, they tell you they have no organized body. Well, that fits a lot of organizations, that they have no organized body. If this was applied to Presbyterians, Pentecostals, Protestants, well, basically, I can go down the list, and every one of them, they have local leaders, but it's not a worldwide organized body for the most part for a lot of them. I had a relative who was Methodist. Buddhism, Hinduism. There's not really a worldwide organized body as such. Well, you can speak about the Dalai Lama, but but Buddhism, I mean, you can, Taoism, Confucianism, the only thing that I can really think of is the Catholic Church and the LDS Church, the Mormons. They are organized into a hierarchy, and it is pretty well set with who's in charge and everything else, and who receives their inspiration and such. But atheism, to say they have no organized body, they do have local pockets where they have organizations, and there's other things that they have that regular religion has. And they'll say, oh yes? No, we don't. There are no organized meetings or meeting houses. Wrong answer. Time Magazine, let's take a look. Time Magazine did a piece on organized atheism. Mega churches in San Diego, Los Angeles, and other places where they have a meeting, and the meeting house, and they sing, and they pass the collection plate, and it's a religion. It looked, I mean, if you didn't know it, if you were just new to the world and you walked into one of these atheist megachurch meetings, and then you went to a different, I don't know what denomination, but it would look strikingly similar. And the reason that is because they want to make it familiar to people that they are pulling away from regular theology and regular churches and synagogues and such, make them feel comfortable, and then indoctrinate them into their religion. So they're just replacing one religion with another religion. But for the most part, when an atheist tells you they don't have organized meetings or meeting houses, the piece in the Time magazine, they meet on Sunday. They meet on Sunday to have this meeting where they sing and dance and pass the plate and have sermons. They call them devotionals or something like that. Now, the big one, they say they don't have any theology. There is zippo theology within atheism. Absolute bunk, total myth. They do have a theology. The theology that they have, they have their doctrine, they have their buildings they hold their meetings in, they have a belief system, they have all this other stuff, and to try to pull it off and tell you that they don't have a theology is absolutely ridiculous. Now, I'm saving the part till last, but I had a teacher in high school, and I had other things that we got in trouble when I was a kid. I think it was like 7th grade, and a teacher said he was disappointed in me, and what we did was we talked about things, and the kids weren't very truthful with him, and he made a statement that stuck with me, and I've used it in talking to flat earthers, I've used it in talking to other groups of people that try to perpetuate these facades and fronts. He said to me, keep in mind, young impressionable kid, and it did impress, if you have to tell a lie to prove a point, you really didn't have a point to begin with. Think about that. I mean, he's teaching me a life lesson. If you're sitting there fabricating information to make a point, to prove your point, to get across your ideology, your theology, your version of what things are going on and how they're happening, if you are doing that to make your case known and to put your facade out in front of the world, you don't really have a point. Flat earthers do this, and I've just shown 6 ways that atheists do this. They try to make the case against all evidence, against all truth, against all information out there, that they're not a religion, that they don't have a dogma, that they don't have meeting houses. When, I mean, do they think that we're all blind? We don't have, there are some of us that don't have the internet, but there's a lot of people that go to a doctor's office and read Time magazine, and they see the articles about the mega churches that atheists have. There are people on the internet that propagate atheist ideology and theology. They do propagate this information. Theology isn't just exclusive to religions. You know, there are different ways of looking at theologies, but the way that the atheists apply it is an actual term that exists, and it's antitheology. It is a belief system that runs counter to theology. So when they tell you lack of belief is not a belief, they don't have a lack of belief. I've seen some agnostics with a lack of belief, a lack of caring, a lack of, they don't know, they don't think it can be known, and they really don't care. They have a lack of belief. They don't even try to believe. I've seen agnostics that do that. They truly, some, do not even think about it at all. They don't care. But atheists, oh boy, howdy do they care. You tell an atheist that they have a religion called atheism, and it is a belief system, and it's like the Tasmanian devil has just unleashed upon you. They go ballistic because they don't want that truth marking who they are. And why? You know, I ask myself this constantly. Why? What's the big deal? It is a belief system. The proof in the fact that it is a belief system is in 1963 when prayer was removed from schools. They went before the Supreme Court and they said, we don't believe in praying. That is our belief system. That is our ideology. That is our dogma. That is our way of life. We don't pray because there's nothing out there to pray to. And the Supreme Court looked at that. That is a religion. That is our religion. That's a basic tenet of our religion. That's a basic part of who we are to the very core. And we don't want to pray. And we don't want to be forced to pray because that's against our religion. And the Supreme Court agreed, and rightfully so. They were being made to pray to a God. And their belief system, their religion, their tenet, their dogma, their doctrine said we don't pray to something that isn't there, and we shouldn't be forced to perform that ritual that is against our religion. And the Supreme Court said, yeah, it is a freedom of religion. You have the freedom to practice that religion. It's not a freedom from religion, it's a freedom of religion, and they had a freedom to practice their religion the way they wanted to, and that included not praying. All 6 of these myths are patently false and junk. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. This has been Mark with Productions MJC.